Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So this is part 2. But you can start here if you want, because I'm going to prove my point here. This video is about the No Kings protest. So Bernie Sanders said things that were very unsettling when you consider the kind of hidden messages there. Politicians love to do things in a way that's consistent with Aleister Crowley's beliefs, including things being hidden in plain view. It's consistent with the millions of occultists and their beliefs that live here in America. There are millions of occultists. There's like over 2 million Freemasons or something alone in America. There's a lot of those guys. And they're into things like esoteric things, occult things, Greek mythology, what have you. And there are countless other people who are into the occult as well. People who define it themselves as witches, people who are Kabbalists, right? Celebrities, you name it. And they have tons of people joining them, and I'm sure you know that by now. If you don't know that, now you know. So my first point here is going to be that the freedom of religion and the right to correct the system is more important than the system itself. The right to do the right thing, right? The right to protest for what's right. Like Martin Luther King said, the greatness of America is supposed to be the right to protest for right. If you think that I'm wrong, then you think that the Revolutionary War shouldn't have happened, right? Because they're a part of a system that they thought wasn't good enough, and they wanted to set up their own system. So for you to then turn around and say to the most righteous person that ever lived that he doesn't have the right to say your system's wrong and this system's better is sick. You think that slave masters and child molesters and early Americans in cults know better than the most righteous person that ever lived just because you're going to side with them when you have no logical reason to believe that? There is no logic or reason that would show that. But you are hypocrites to the extreme. He also said that they rejected the divine rights of kings in the 1770s. He's right and he's wrong. You mean the divine right, the so-called divine right of European kings, not the divine right of someone who's established the throne in righteousness. Righteousness is divine. Now there's semantics here, okay? He's aiming this at Donald Trump, and I agree, Trump made a lot of mistakes. Trump had no right to do a lot of things. He had no right to play stupid about the organized psychological operations that are going on here in America, including the ones aimed at me, and I have 23 witnesses on record. He did things that are a little bit more political for me. I'm more concerned with social issues like the judges issue, the districting. Okay, when I look at it, I'm sure he had bad intentions. I'm sure he's wrong, but I'm not going to get into that because it's a little bit too political for me. I focus on the major social issues. I'm not a politician. The top martial artist ever possible, a righteous man, the Son of God, what have you. For those of you who don't believe that, see my Proof I'm Christ series. I'm sure it will change your mind unless you're a complete idiot. I've proven the miracles are figurative. I've proven a lot of things that definitively show that I'm Christ, the Son of God. At the end of the Bible and everything. Okay. So, he threatens the media. I think that was wrong. Okay, that's almost too political for me. He said that Trump goes after people's freedom of thought and dissent. Absolutely. I'm being persecuted because I don't agree with rich people in any political party and so on and so forth, that I won't be their slave. Like Tupac said, right, from out of the frying pan, people have jumped into another form of slavery. And it's not just because they're debt slaves, as they say. There's all kinds of psychology and all kinds of coercion going on these days. It's very, very sick, I assure you, very sick. So, as he kind of emphasized the arguments about the divine right of kings, he said, we the people. We the people, right? 1 in 4 females are raped in their life, and that means 1 in 4 people are rapists. No one put a gun to the head and told them to do it in the vast majority of cases throughout American history. No one hacked their brain and told them to do it in the vast majority of cases throughout American history. They're just rapists because they're selfish. And some people, sometimes a female gets raped multiple times in her life. Okay? There's these people in the churches and the Boy Scouts. There's all kinds of people who exploit the labor force. There's all kinds of criminals. Historically, the people of color, were marginalized and treated in a way that social engineers and urban planners, city planners knew was going to result in them committing crimes at a higher rate. Make a group poorer than other groups, you expect them to be more criminal, right? They have less nutrition, they'll have more stress, they'll have more temptation in certain ways, and so on and so forth. In terms of these street crimes, I do believe that African Americans, for example, kill more people on the street level. But I certainly believe that on the higher level, and the more corrupt level, the more evil level of corporations, that whites, Jews, and LGBT people on the corporate level kill the most people because of their policies and the way they engineer things and their politics and so on and so forth. And if you don't understand that, you're an idiot. I mean, my goodness, what there's not to get. Now, let's also remember that there's a thin line in some ways, in very key ways, between a righteous king and the president in the system. The president has the right to veto bills. And if I'm not mistaken, you need a 2/3 vote in Congress to override that veto. That means if you have a Congress that's about half and half, right? Half Republican, half Democrat, the president can veto every one of the Democrats' bills. And if Republicans don't help them override it, there's nothing they can do about it, if I'm not mistaken here, right? That's giving them a lot of power. So he damn near has the power of a king anyway. There's a lot of problems with the argument. So he also says, quote unquote, President Trump, we don't want you or any other kings to rule over us or to rule us. Okay, might be a little off about the quote, but that's basically what it's saying. That he doesn't want Trump or any kings to rule over him. Does that include Jesus? And this is from somebody who admits he's not religious. Now, their actions fill in the blank. He's someone who's not a religious. There's a bunch of Satanists in his party. There's a bunch of lemmings in his party. A bunch of gang stalkers, people playing stupid in his party. And in both parties. There's a bunch of people who are racial supremacists, ethnic nationals, right? Ethnocentric people, tribalists in their party. Most people date their own race, if I'm not mistaken here. I mean, that by the looks of it must be the case. So he's appealing to a bunch of people who don't want to admit that a certain type of person who is not like them is more ideal than they are. If a righteous person is not greater than a wicked person, then why do you lock up wicked people who commit crimes under the pretense that it's a wicked thing that they've done and they need to be corrected? That is the major reason. They say, hey, that's not right. And when they define criminally insane, they say not being able to understand the difference between right and wrong. So your argument is it is a justice system, and that when people are too sick or too evil to not do the right thing, that you lock them up in that way, in that sense. That's your argument. How are you going to then turn around and say that a righteous person isn't greater than a wicked person? How could they be equal? How could you lock up one person and want to vote for another person for president at face value and then say that those two are equal? That is stupid. That doesn't make sense. Are you going to then say all cars are equal? All homes are equal? That's stupid. So we see that we have two parties here. One that plays dumb about like everything in terms of equality. And one that does something worse than playing dumb about everything is they pretend that a group of people that you have no reason to believe has ever presented the ideal person at the pinnacle is magically superior. Both those general philosophies are incorrect, and they are profoundly petty and selfish and stupid. Like a little kid throwing a fit, give them a pacifier, right? Put them in a baby cart, right? Because they're like a little kid throwing a fit saying they want their way. And countless people are starving to death, they're getting raped and beaten and robbed and getting killed and on and on and on. And they keep throwing fits as groups, as bitches, as rich, spoiled oligarch trash with no heart, with no sense of fair play, just horrible, horrible people. So to you, if all people are equal, is Jesus Christ as a character in the Bible equal to King Herod? Can you come to God through King Herod? No. Was King Herod set apart by God as his son? No. So you've come into a society where most people here either believe that Christ is superior to all other people born on this planet, or that if he existed, that he would be. But then you turn around and say two outrageous things. One, that you reject Christ as king if you take your general statement literally, no matter what, because you believe in a very corrupt system that has never had a moral atmosphere or a moral spirit ever. Just propaganda. Even World War II. There was a bunch of racism in America, a bunch of propaganda, just corruption. Just because you happen to fight somebody who seems like more of an asshole than you are doesn't mean that you're in a Holy Spirit. If you don't know that, you're very dumb. So when Stalin fought against Hitler, he was in the Holy Spirit too? It's stupid. So as you can see, I'm right, they're wrong, and there are countless people playing stupid and breaking down into groups, right? They're MAGA guys, they're Antifa, they're woke, they're Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians. So with their judgment, in their minds, with the information they're given, when I live in the middle of nowhere with my parents, right, and they have strong networks, I'm being shunned, they're not, they came to the conclusion to do some dumb fucking shit as groups. So people with a long history as groups have come together for dumb shit, to be dumb fucks, and to fuck off their children and their future, their children's future as groups. You think that they're more qualified to lead than the righteous man? Do you think that 1,000 pedophiles are more qualified to babysit your kids than the most righteous person ever? Where do you draw the line?